amazing working with my wife. So I know I'm working with a partner that's just as dedicated as I am.
Working with my husband has its challenges because we're together all the time. It is an art form, what we do here as far as metal shaping, especially the interiors, paint colors, matching it to interiors, wheels. I mean, everything goes hand in hand. Everything has to be complementary. GCD actually stands for Gillin Custom Design. Gillin is a combination of my partner's name and my name, Gil and Linda. My name is Linda Nylon, and I am the owner of GCD Auto Studio.
My name is Gil Mungie. I am one of the owners at GCD Auto Studio.
He has a respect for what I do here. I have respect for what he does here.
GCD, you know, we're not just building cars, we're building relationships.
I'm the realist, he's the dreamer.
Because it's not just about the build. We're 100% married to the ride. When you mention performance, most people think about horsepower, engines, transmissions, even suspensions. But in my world, the interior world, we think of performance differently. It's the gauges, how well are they going to perform? The audio system, is it the right speakers, the subwoofer? The leather, is that going to hold up and perform well? We're going to put a suede headliner in, is that the right choice? Also AC, the vents. So in our world, in the interior world, performance means a whole lot of different things. Not just horsepower. Speaking of performance, we're back on the 1969 Camaro, the 950 horsepower one. And with that kind of horsepower, we need to perform our job on the interior side. So Julio has to put together the right kind of seat. So that means shaping the foam correctly, choosing the right leather, and he's gonna have to go ahead and stitch that up nice and tight because we don't want any loose leather in there because that driver will slide around.
So at GCD, considering it's 2024, a lot of these classic cars, everyone loves a classic, but everyone wants it to perform like a newer car or better. So, you know, we do some pure restorations, but a lot of what we do are these resto mods. You know, larger motors, more horsepower, better performing transmissions, something that you can get in, start up, fuel injection, you know, carburetors are starting to become a little extinct. So performance is always, you know, usually what the customer's looking for in unison with obviously body and paint, you know, the looks of the car. And we actually have a 72 Branco that's here. And that's really, he's not changing the exterior. Everything was already, we're leaving it as is, but he really wanted this thing to perform. And we're getting ready to actually pull out the motor and kind of disassemble everything, come up with a game plan. We have all the parts here already, and how we're gonna get this thing back together and back on the road. So we had Paul come in, he dropped off the Branco, and we hadn't taken the plastic off the motor, we did take the box off. You don't want to be struggling with that in front of the client. That thing was staples everywhere. So it was kind of cool to have an unveiling, so to speak, and have him be able to get to see it for the first time.
So I'm Paul Kreusch, dropping off my 72 Branco at GCD Auto Studio in Florida, New York for a Coyote swap.
I don't think you realize, because you look at the Branco, it seems kind of compact, and then you see this giant motor that's going to be going in, and I'm looking at the motor, and I'm looking at the Branco. I'm looking at the motor. And we know it's going to work. We know it's going to fit. But just the sheer moment when you unwrap this thing was pretty crazy. Oh wow!
All right, the old 302's going, and the new one's coming in. The old Coyote. Look at that thing. Beautiful.
Wow.
We'll get the beast over here put in. I'm looking forward to the performance it's going to offer. We're looking at almost a tripling of the horsepower, up to about 450, 460. So it's going to be pretty exciting to drive this truck around.
That's awesome.
So the 1955 Chrysler wagon. Many of you have seen it in the background, so let's get caught up to speed on that one. Now we talk about performance. This is not just some ordinary 55 Chrysler wagon. It's sitting on a custom chassis along with an LT4 motor in it. The first thing we want to do on this 1955 Chrysler wagon is get the headliner all set. So Kurt's going to go ahead, get the headliner installed, and then from that point, we'll work our way down.
Today we're working on the 55 Chrysler wagon. Putting the headliner in, door panels, dash, preparing the floor for carpet.
So when it comes to the interior on this 1955 Chrysler wagon, the client had some very specific details. He wanted to maintain all the door panel trim, all the bright work had to be maintained. Now there's going to be some hand-tooled leather going into this as well. Those are going to be on the door panel, and they're going to kind of be boxed out by the bright work on it, so it's going to frame it really nice. So now that Kurt's got all the door panels set, he's going to jump on and get that carpet all done. So he's already got the padding down, so now he has to go ahead and pattern out that black velour carpet, bind the edges, and get that installed.
So our 66 Tempest is moving along nicely. Bob redid the inner fender wells. There were some adjustments that had to be made, as with everything. So all that is set now, and what Koba's doing is doing the final gapping, making sure everything lines up, because we do want to take it for another poly prime. So it's necessary to get all that done before it goes. This way all of your major body work is done. Any little things, any other metal modification, anything else that you have to do, you want to do it now, and that's what he's going over with a fine-tooth comb.
So I'm working on Pontiac 66 Tempest. We're adjusting the caps. We have to square up the front end. This way we can install wood on it. That's what we're doing today.
And then we'll be pulling out the motor and the transmission. The motor actually has to get cleaned. We do want to paint that. That's going to be a nice satin black, which really will highlight all the other accessories that we're going to be putting on there. Kind of like, you know, the jewel box everybody talks about. You open the hood and there's the little engagement ring, and then all the other stuff just looks really pretty around it. And the engine bay will be the body color, so you want to make sure everything is spot on. And Koba, we know he's spot on with his body work, so he'll be taking care of the inner fender wells. And I would say it'll be next few weeks, it'll be for a second poly prime, so paint's not far behind, believe it or not. It's crazy, and that's our favorite. The paint is our favorite. We can't wait. Oh, this, in my opinion, I believe this will make it to Syracuse no problem. The interior, I'm not really sure. You know, it's an extensive interior, everything's leather, so that may be the only factor that keeps it from going. As far as parts, as far as everything else, it's pretty much all set. You know, once the blocking after the poly prime and it's, you know, you jam it and then paint it. That would really be the only question mark, if that's going to get done in time. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping. I'm hopeful. I'm hoping.
So in the 1969 Camaro, it's amazing how far we've come on these door panels. From initially sitting down with Tyler at the computer, to drawing everything out, to now seeing everything structurally in place. I mean, he's got a lot of hours of work into this, from laying down the 3D printed pieces, to doing all the fiberglass work, and now it's almost ready for leather. So on this 1969 Camaro door panel, one of the key elements is that middle insert. I'm not talking about the diamond pleated part, I'm talking about that surround part that needs to be bodyworked and finished correctly, because Jay's going to have to go ahead and paint that tungsten silver color on that edge.
So these are the door panels for the 1969 Camaro, and I've made these fiberglass inserts, and now I'm just going to fill in this gap with some Duramix. So it takes away all of this unevenness.
The handle, you'll reference the handle based on the measurement of the piece there, and then you can kind of go around it there. And
Yep, but I'll get that guy in there, basically from like this point to this point right here.
So on this 1969 Camaro door panel that Tyler's working on, we take performance on a different level. We take a look at the design, we take a look at the rendering on the computer, but now in the end, that door handle itself, that fixed piece, has to perform well within that design. And that's what Tyler's working on right now.
So one's like this and one's like this. And if I move it just one tooth of the key, everything's out. So I had to take this whole latch apart, modify the rod, everything, try to get it to match that side. So it's fighting me for every little bit.
So the last piece on this 1969 Camaro door panel is the custom printed speaker grille. So now that Tyler's got the rest of it structurally sound, he's going to go ahead and lay that speaker grille exactly where it needs to be.
Excited. We have a 49 Ford coming in, and Meryl and Mark, we call them the M&M. They are repeat customers. They have actually started with us with upholstery. Back when we were just doing upholstery, we actually did furniture, things like that. So they've really followed us along in our journey, and I was really happy to be able to do something for them. They're bringing in their truck, complete new wiring harness. It really needs it. It's overdue. And that's really a safety issue. It's one of the really important things that you need to address.
Biggest factor is the wire starts to get brittle after a while, so sometimes things won't work and could leave you stranded. Or different lights may not work. The system, the charging system may not work correctly, or the starting system.
So we'll be running the whole new harness. There's a couple grounding issues, so we'll get that fixed up.
This week we had this 1949 Ford F1 come in. It's always not about performance here in the shop. Sometimes it is about safety. So this client wanted me to change the harness in the car. It was kind of old. It had a bunch of connectors in there, some home connectors and stuff, screw-on stuff that was kind of a little shady. So we decided to change the wiring harness out of the car completely, front to back, all new sockets, all new bulbs, and check all the grounds out for him.
So Scott was kind of heading up the project of rewiring the car.
The first step on replacing the wire harness on this 49 Ford is to disconnect the battery, and from there I start to remove the original wiring harness. I usually start inside the car from the fuse box, and just on this particular side I'm not going to keep anything, so I'll just cut some of the wires out of the way, remove the fuse box, go to the front of the car, remove all the headlight wiring, the horn wiring, all the wiring going to the engine, and then I do the under the car to the rear tail light. I remove all that wiring.
So at that point I was in the back of the car on the truck, and I was running the wires for all of the rear lights, brake lights, parking lights, and license plate light. So some of the things had to be changed only because who had previously run the wires, some of it wasn't as good as what it could be or should be.
Yeah, so on the 49 Ford, Rich helped me out. Actually, he did the rear of the car. He got the rear taillight wires all wired up and loomed for me while I worked on the interior and then the front of the car.
Shouldn't be more than a couple days, and they can take it. And it's great because it's in non-show season. It's back non-show season, but they'll be ready to pull it out when the time comes and safely and drive to their next car show.
With this 1955 Chrysler wagon, the client had a very specific view of, and an idea, kind of a vision of what he wanted this console to look like. He loved the curves of the dash and all the intricacies of all the bright work on the dash. So when it came time to the console, we had to make sure that those curves matched.
Today I'm actually working on a 1955 Chrysler Windsor center console that I've built. Actually just getting everything lined up and mocked up.
So we've had the meeting with the client. He's talked about some of the features. So now that Tyler's got the base console done, he's going to move on to those features. Cup holders, shifter bezel, armrest, storage compartment, and foam pocket.
It actually incorporates a nice large screen for the front, as well as the shifter. We're going to put a couple of cup holders in here, probably a storage tray for his cell phone. Right now I'm just currently lining up the rear door, so that way I have some pieces of leather and some of the foam that we use. That way I can actually gap it correctly, and everything, when they do wrap it, goes together seamlessly and everything lines up. We don't have to do any adjusting or shaving or modifying to the parts at all. We're just going to be able to wrap them and put them in the car.
We also want to go ahead and incorporate some wood element into the console. Because the whole cargo area is finished wood, the client thought it'd be great to incorporate that into the console to tie everything together. So now Tyler's got his work cut out for him, because the client's expecting big things.
So today on the 72 Bronco, Scott and Rich are going to start taking everything out. Obviously you have to remove all the wires, motor, trans, all that has to come out.
All right, today we're working on his 1972 Ford Bronco that came in. It's actually doing a new engine and transmission, wire harness, and a four-wheel disc brake conversion.
You kind of want to start with a shell in case you have to make any alterations. I know that there's a passenger side wheel well that goes in that's specifically made for the Coyote.
This Coyote is much more performance orientated than the engine that was already in there. It had a small block 302 in it, carbureted. So now you're going to a new Gen 3 Coyote. I believe it's 410 or so horsepower. And it's going to turn this truck into a monster, actually.
It's so nice.
I wonder if it's going to fit.
I know, right? Look, it's huge.
The first steps to getting this new Coyote engine and transmission into this Bronco is to gently remove all the front end of the vehicle. So this is a beautiful paint job on this truck, but we do have to remove the hood and the fenders, the grille, the rad support, just to get the old engine and transmission out so we could test fit the new engine and transmission and then see what we have to modify in order to get this to fit in there.
Again, we have all the parts except for the transmission, which hopefully will show up at some point. It's on track to be here, next couple weeks. And we're gonna try to mock up as much as we can, without the transmission, which is a little difficult. But there are other things that we can do in the meantime. There's a whole power step kit. There's a whole wiring harness. So I think depending on whether or not this transmission shows up, that's really gonna dictate the next steps for us. But the first thing is, once it's all apart and everything is out and everything's ready to go, is coming up with a game plan, based on not having the transmission. We have the headers, we have all those things. But the whole point of having the transmission is to see if we have to cut that tunnel or not.
So we do have a big pile of parts for this Coyote swap and this Bronco. Besides just putting the engine and transmission in, We're doing a 4-wheel disc brake conversion. The client wants us to go through the transfer case and make sure all the seals and bearings are good, no leaks in there, and also the front and rear differentials. He wants us to go through and make sure that all the bearings and seals are good in that, again, so there's no leaks. We're also adding power steps on the side of it because it is lifted a little bit, and actually with the Coyote motor swap, you do have to do a 2-inch body lift in order to fit that inside. So he wanted electric steps to help him get into it because it's a little taller.
We are doing an interior of sorts. It's not going to be a custom interior in this Bronco, so once we're all done doing our part with the tunnel and everything's in and everything's wired, there's a really cool Tom's Off-Road makes this kit that's already done. Everything's all set, your benches, your buckets for the front, it's all upholstered, it's black, it comes literally, you pull the old stuff out, put the new stuff in, and we're all set. So Gil doesn't even have to touch this one.
So on the 1969 Camaro, we now have Colin on the project. We're going to go ahead and have him tackle the trunk. Now this trunk is really challenging. Usually we have a big empty space to work with, but unfortunately on this one we have a battery to contend with, some kind of fuel cell mechanism thing. We actually have the gas tank in the trunk as well, and a lot of hoses to go ahead and design around. So I told Colin, I said, listen, we got to make this thing look good. It has to be functional, accessible, and we have to make sure it looks like the rest of the design.
All right, so today I'm working on the 69 Camaro trunk. At first glance, there's a lot going on back there. The fuel cell, the fuel pump, the battery. Step one in the process is remove what's in there, and that's really what I'm in the process of. I got the battery and the tray out. I'm removing these panels. Got one right here that taken out. Once I get all the panels out, then I can start fabbing up some new ones. It's a lot to cover up, but we need to make panels so everything's clean, and we want to make sure that it's not only aesthetically pleasing, but it's also serviceable, and that we can bring some of the design from the interior so that everything flows together. Okay, so now that I got the panels out, I started to create my pieces to make new panels. First one is going to be the piece that my upper panel will rest on. Once that's completed, I'll start working on the finish panel that will hide the battery. And then I'll do the left side, and I'll create some more panels that will hide the fuel cell and all the lines and stuff, and kind of clean it up, and just simple and clean is what we're going for. So the next steps of the 69 Camaro will be, once Julio finalizes the fabrication on the rear seat, I can start laying out what the rear package tray needs to look like so that it's true to the rendering flowing from the package shelf down into the console.
Is it weird to be drinking coffee at a bar?
No.
Okay.
You've heard of coffee bars, right?
True. And I bet you put whiskey in yours.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm enjoying my Gearhead coffee. Very much so. I needed a little break from the wine, which is weird. I can't believe I said that. Anyway, so my week, just because I want to tell you, I'm excited. I got to see Meryl and Mark. The 49 F1, we did the complete harness, took care of all the grounding issues, neatened everything up, and so happy. I think Mark really appreciates the look of everything and the finish. And I think that means a lot, not just getting the job done, but how you finish everything, how you tie everything in. So they were really, really happy with the job. So as they have been in the past, they're repeat customers. So keep that momentum going. And how was your week?
It was great. 69 Camaro, door panels moving along great. So we moved past the initial fabrication. We Tyler dialed in the insert area, including the kind of angled area where that's going to be painted. Just got to wrap up the speaker grill insert, and those will be done. You know, it's just great to see it from the rendering to now physically on the door panel with the handle functioning, and just looks like it's moving along nicely.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I looked at it. The seats are beautiful. It came out really nice.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's
and the
definitely
color's
gonna be,
nice. It looks good with the paint color.
It's the best choice.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And the 55 is back from paint. We are now, well, not a scramble, but everything's gonna go really fast because everything's painted, everything's been pre-fit. So it's just motor, trans, everything that goes on the firewall, wiring, all that stuff. I would say it's only gonna take us like a week or two to get that set. So I hope you're ready for the interior.
Oh, we're ready. It's on the schedule. We're 100% ready for it.
All right.
Actually, we got a good head start on it, so I'm not.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's the one nice thing about having access. It's a one-stop shop. You get to kind of work in sync, so you're not losing time on either side. But you just let me know when you're ready for me to send it over to your side.
Yeah, it's on my list.
I'm sure. All right. I'm not hitting your cup with my hot coffee.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.